are listening to episode 138 of Mitolife Radio. I'm your host, Matt Blackburn, and today this is a fun episode with Leo Wik. He is the host of the Leo Wik podcast that I've been a guest on a few times, and we have some mutual guests that we've both interviewed on our podcast, including Georgie Dinkoff, Danny Roddy, Kyle Mamunis, and Emma, the co-founder of the brand Satchery. So he has a lot of great information on his podcast, especially if you're new to healing your metabolism and getting back to balance from fasting and keto and all of those extremes. And Leo's also hilarious. He never fails to make me laugh. The Instagram reels that he uploads makes me belly laugh really hard. And I think it's really important that we inject humor into the natural health field because it gets so serious and there's so many people that are just attacking each other, and natural health just stops being fun when you're just battling people all day long and super serious about life. I think a big part of health is being lighthearted, not taking yourself too seriously, or life for that matter, too seriously, and just maintaining a lightness of being. I think that's really conducive to health. And I really like that Leo reminds people of that through his humor. So we talk about kinesiology, cold plunges, saunas, fish oil, PUFAs, being a fat burner, gluconeogenesis, issues with dairy, talk about fiber and chiropractic work, acupuncture, massages, supplementation, and more. Here is Leo Wik. Enjoy. Leo Wik, welcome to the show.
Hey, brother. Thanks for having me on, brother. My pleasure.
Yeah, I'm excited. You're one of my favorite health comedians. There aren't many of us out there. I think you're better than me at it. All your memes and the oat milk jokes, and I always laugh with your stuff, so I appreciate it.
I try to have fun with it, not take myself too seriously either, you know?
Yeah, because there's a lot of that in the health community, right? Like just the intensity, and people make it into like a religion, and then they just get like, they start getting into personal attacks. It just gets really weird when it shouldn't be lighthearted, right? We're just talking about health.
Yeah, and certitude, right? Like, I've got it all figured out. I'm telling you, I read this one book or these 3 PubMed studies, and I got it. Let me tell you, okay?
So you're on the carnivore diet, right? No,
for sure. Carnivore. Well, yeah, full carnivore and cucumbers, and that's it. That's still because they're still carnivore because they're shaped. You know, because they're shaped. You know what I'm saying? So.
So let's start from the beginning. How did you get interested in health?
Well, I guess I should tell a little bit about myself. I was born in a little place just above Japan. It's called Kamchatka. It's a little peninsula on the eastern side of Russia. And I was born in a city called Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, that's the capital city of that little spot. It's a wild place. There's lots of bears there, lots of salmon and caviar, and that's it. And, I moved around a lot as a kid, and kind of my whole family and just Russian culture in general. There's definitely a lot more of a natural or, quote unquote, alternative health aspect to the culture. Like, for example, sauna, which is for Russians, it's like it's as basic as showering. Every Russian knows what a sauna is. We call it a banya. So, when I kind of came here and saw that it's like this thing that people are, paying like enormous amounts of money for to go to sauna, it's like, whoa, this is interesting because it's very different. Like I said, it's kind of a part of the natural thing in Russia. A lot of people go to it in the winter And yeah, stuff like that, and teas, herbal teas are very common. So it's a little different from American scene. I think my kind of physical background started because of Jean-Claude Van Damme. When I was a kid in Russia, we used to watch his horrible, awful but good awful movies that were dubbed in Russian. And because of that, I got into martial arts. I started with Kyokushin karate. I started doing that. And I went into Sambo, which is another Russian martial art, and things like, we call it rukopashny boy. It's like, hand-to-hand combat. So I did a lot of those things. And that, of course, coincides with, taking care of yourself and eating right. And I started getting interested in things like that. Yeah. And then eventually I moved to the States. I went to college for kinesiology. So I'm a kinesiologist by training. And then I took it off, I took it into my own hands from there because I kind of had enough indoctrination in college. So I started looking around at other stuff.
It is like, I got a Steven Seagal phase. Is he like the American version of Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Yeah, he was really big. Yeah, he was really big in Russia. That's another guy. Yeah, for sure. Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal were the biggest. Chuck Norris was also popular, but not as much. I think he was a little too American for Russians, the whole like Ranger thing, because it doesn't really make any sense in Russian culture. I was like, what? But Jean-Claude and Steven Seagal, yeah, were the two people I was definitely into as a kid.
I think all those movies are like better than any comedy that's been released in the last 10, 15
For sure.
years.
Are you kidding me? For sure. They're acting, everything about it, especially those early ones. Well, those are the only ones you can watch, though. I don't know if you ever tried watching some of their recent more films, but they are but they're terrible. I don't know if I can say
That's cool. Go for it.
All right.
Explicit.
Explicit.
Yeah, the sauna thing's interesting because I got into it like in my parents' garage, like bought one on Craigslist, and it like changed my life just sitting inside of one of those zip up saunas. And then I'm really fortunate to have just put up like a barrel sauna here, like an off-grid wood powered barrel sauna. Mm-hmm. And there's something about it. Like I tell people, that's like one of the most powerful things you could do for your health. And I guess people can take it too far, right? Like I think Ray Pete's talked about like, he's not a fan of heat shock proteins or something, and then you have Joe Rogan like saying it's a cure-all.
Yeah, well, just like you said, it's all about the taking it too far. It's just like with exercise, right? People exercise or they do CrossFit, at 5 a.m. after waking up and sleeping for 4 hours and doing 4 shots of espresso and then driving over to their CrossFit gym and then just murdering themselves, right, in the morning. That's definitely overdoing it with exercise. And the same thing happens with stuff like sauna. Yeah, people go in there, same thing, like in Russia, people go in, you feel hot, you come out, you do a cold plunge, keyword plunge. You're not trying to sit in the water for 3 hours and slow down your entire metabolism. You're just trying to cool off. And then you wrap yourself up in a blanket or a robe. And then you go lay down on the bed and relax and chill before you do another round. So it's supposed to be like a relaxing thing. It's not supposed to be this like workout. Some of the people I follow, like Laird Hamilton and stuff like that, they take it a bit far, I think. When they go in there and they put like bikes in there and they do sprints on the Airdyne in the sauna. Yeah, I think that's a bit too much. I guess if you're healthy and you have the energy for it, that's great. But it's not viewed that way in Russia. It's a relaxing kind of thing that is supposed to stimulate you, right? And you do a lot of, things like branch kind of therapy. We call it veniki. You ever seen that? It's these little branches they take. Usually it's made from like oak or birch trees. And they make this like sort of like a mop looking thing. And you kind of get hit with it while you're in there. And the oils from the leaves go into your skin and you're getting like a massage while you're laying down and somebody else is doing it. So if you ever have a chance, Russian sauna, highly recommend.
Is that like vlogging?
A little bit.
That's interesting. I've seen people do that with stinging nettle. They say it's good for you to like hit yourself with stinging nettle leaf.
Yeah, they do it all sorts of different. There's a whole culture of it. Like I said, in Russia, I mean, the basic standard ones are from oak and birch traditionally, but people use all sorts of like herbs and put it in there. And you're just laying down in the sauna, and you have somebody, usually your whatever friend or family, or even some random guy in Russia. It happens all the time. It's very normal. He'll just be smacking you with this thing. It's not like trying to murder you with it. He's just hitting you a little bit, giving you a little bit of a massage, a stimulation, exfoliation, if you want to use fancy words. But you're also getting those oils from the leaves, and it smells really good. And you come out of there, you do a little plunge, and then you go and lay down. And then maybe you do that a couple times. Take your time, 1 to 2 hours, and then you go and chill, and you go home. Versus getting inside the sauna and sitting on an Airdyne bike and doing sprints. Not a fan.
Do you ever get into like the ice baths, like cold thermogenesis? Did you ever give it a try?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I got into it, and then there's this really great book. It's not about that per se, but it's called Blue Mind, I think. And there was a challenge of 100 days of blue. The book is about sort of humans' connections to water and how it makes you happier, how it makes you feel better. And it doesn't even really matter what kind of water it is. But anyway, so there's this challenge that they do where you got to get into water for 100 days. And I wanted to do it, and I started doing it in the winter time. So like in December in LA. And the water is really cold. I don't know if you know that in LA. It's not like Florida. So I started going in there in the cold ocean for 100 days straight. I think I got about up to maybe 90 days before I just had something coming up and I moved or I had to leave town and I wasn't here for it to finish it. But I almost did 100 days. Well, anyway, long story short, I think it really slowed down my metabolism. It makes you feel good when you're getting in the cold water and you're in there. But I think it really slows down your metabolism because I was measuring my temperatures all throughout the time, and they kept going steadily down day after day. And to me, I don't think that's a good sign of a healthy metabolism.
Yeah. I think the plunge makes more sense. Like, and that gives you all the benefits you need, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to sit in there.
In Russia, commonly, it's a bucket that's placed above your head where you just fill up the bucket with cold water. And then you pour the bucket over your head. That's it, just to cool off, right? Because the sauna gets hot. And you walk away and lay down. I think that's much better than, there's a Russian sauna here in LA that I go to. And you can tell who the American dudes are because they'll go in. There's a tiny cold plunge pool where you're supposed to just, jump in and jump out. But these guys will go in there and sit in there. And then you have to wait for them to get out when you want to do it. So you can always tell who's the American and who's the real Russian.
Well, I'm going to check out Blue Mind. I found it. That looks interesting because there's a raw primal idea going around that it's not good to shower every day. And that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That's big in the alternative community too, right? Or like not using any soap whatsoever. Though, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think most of those soaps that are commercially bought are just awful for you and terrible, which is one of the reasons I started making my own soap from coconut oil. It's just one ingredient, coconut oil. You use a little bit of lye to get it to saponify, and that's it. So, but they're also commercially available. You can find just one ingredient coconut oil soaps. So I recommend those to people often.
You're going to start selling them?
I'm going to get an Etsy. Oh my God. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be called Biohacker Soap.
Some methylene blue in there or something.
Oh, there you go. That's an idea.
Yeah. Wim Hof has really been trending, right? Like I remember I was kind of getting into it and I was like, wow, he has it down. But then I started to see him blow up mainstream and I started to question. And then I learned about repeat, like off-gassing too much CO2 with like hyperventilating and how that's not good.
I've talked about him on my podcast with Kyle Mamunis before. He has what looks like alcoholic's nose, and that's not to pick at him because I know he does like to drink alcohol, and that's cool, that's fine. But it's just that we think that it's probably from doing that too much. Because when you're doing those crazy cold challenges or whatever, hiking up the mountains, you are releasing stress hormones, right? You are releasing cortisol, all kinds of stuff is happening, adrenaline. So I think that's just a case of like overdoing it, just like we're talking about. I think is probably a little too much. I would probably say stay in the sauna and stop going in the cold so often. But I can see why people are into it, because again, like most people, especially people who are attracted to this sort of things, are people who are stressed out. They probably hate their jobs, probably living in a place they don't like, probably have terrible relationships. And then they find this guy and he says, go into the ice bath and you'll feel good. And I mean, it's true, right? Let me tell you, like, you jump into an ice bath, you cannot think about all that bullshit that's on your mind, right? It just jumps out of your head. So I get it why people are attracted to those things, because it's like, oh, and then you get out of there, you're shaking and you're shivering and you're like, oh yeah, this is the best thing ever. And for a moment it is, I think. But I think, like I said before, overdoing it, I think definitely slows down your metabolism. And I think it's just a case of overdoing it, overusing and abusing your stress hormones.
Yeah, for sure. I remember getting high from it. I would do like 55 degrees for like 15, 20 minutes. And I would feel this brain buzz that would last like pretty much all day, like 6 hours after I did it or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how much of that was adrenaline or dopamine or a combination.
Correct. Yeah, you don't know, right? So that's why I think it's more about the exposure, right? Because they all do say that word. They say exposure, but then they go in there and sit in there for 30 minutes at a time, right? Like, it's not really exposure at that point. I think maybe it's a little too much exposure. So I'm a fan of, doing hot to cold, but just doing a little bit of each. Because I've also taken people to saunas and they felt like they were going to pass out and they started feeling terrible. And so I'm always very careful with people. I just say, go in there as soon as you start feeling like a little lightheaded, even a little. Go get out, take a break, because you can always come back and do another round, right? It's not like you have to go in there, because it kind of became like a cock measuring contest thing, right? Of who can do the longest or who can do the most sprints in the sauna. And it's like, just go in there, relax, get out when you feel like it, take a break, have some water, have some tea, which is traditionally what they do. And then go back in there. And same thing with cold water. Just jump in and jump out. Relax.
Do you feel a difference between like a far infrared dry sauna and a steam sauna? Because for me, a steam sauna feels way more intense. Like it's way harder for me to stay inside of a steam barrel sauna than like a dry sauna.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the Russian like perspective of it. So when you say steam sauna, you mean like what they would call like a Turkish sauna, where you literally see the steam coming out of the sauna, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Or like you like pour water on the stones.
Oh, okay. So that is a dry sauna, actually.
Yeah.
That's a dry sauna. But then there's a steam sauna where literally you're seeing steam coming out. They have those in gyms often. Do you know what I'm saying?
That, yeah.
And they call that Turkish sauna or Turkish bath sometimes. The Russian perspective on it is that, if you really want to get a good sauna session in, you got to do both. So the drier sauna, and if you go into like a real quality sauna spots, and in Russia, there's ones that have been around since early 1900s. They're still there. They're like really old school and cool and massive, places. But those big ones, they'll have, instead of just a small little pit, like you said, a little electronic box of rocks, they'll have big pits of rocks sitting inside. And then you're pouring water in there, but then you're closing it off. And then the heat escapes like a dry heat. So what you feel, the feeling is like you're getting cooked from the inside out, kind of, right? Sort of like, a turkey in the oven kind of thing, right? You're just getting cooked. And that's like you don't get sweaty as fast. You're just slowly releasing your sweat. And so it's kind of good for the internal stuff. And then you can finish off with like a steam sauna or a Turkish sauna. And that you feel, like I said, because, you literally see the steam, people's eyes fog up right away, and you can't last long in there either. But in there, you're kind of getting more exposure to your skin because it's literally hitting your skin. This, vapor is hitting your skin. So, there's a difference. And I would do both if you have the access of both. But, one is better than none.
So you mentioned kinesiology. I want to go back to that. Like, so is that like biomechanics and human movement? Because
because
there's like an anti-deadlifting movement you've probably seen out there.
Sure.
Where they say like traditional exercise is unhealthy. And to me, I just feel like it's another thing of overdoing it, right? That's probably what they're against. But I think someone even sent in a question. They're like, why is he moving? I got to look it up, laterally when humans are meant to move.
It's probably somebody who's a fan of people like Nadi Aguilar of Functional Patterns, which a lot of that stuff that Nadi pulled out is from Paul Chek's stuff, who I've also studied under for many years too. And I've done seminars with him. And I understand where they're coming from, but just like you said, it's a big question, of course, but I think, it's a matter of doing it and overdoing it. Because listen, people who just run, right, sprinters get injured all the time, right? Their ankles get blown out all the time, knees all the time. So if it was that simple as to say you should only be moving in this, running pattern, I don't think that's the case. Just like you said, but I'm also not a fan of like, trying to become a power lifter, right? I think if that's your sport and that's what you're into, that's awesome. Do your thing. But yeah, I mean, that's not healthy either. Being able to deadlift 4 times your body weight. I don't think it's going to give you a long lasting, healthy back, and you see that in the older power lifters, guys like Eddie Cohen, who, they can't put their hands up over their head anymore because they're so muscle bound, tied down to the ground because they got so good at that movement so that the entire fascia and entire muscle, everything adapted to this like bent over position that, okay, I'm really good at that, but then I can't get my hands over my head, literally,
That's wild. Wow. Yeah, because they say the argument I've heard against deadlifting is that it compresses your spine and that there's nothing you can do about it, even with corrective exercise. It's like not worth ever doing a deadlift, and didn't really make sense to me.
Well, listen. I mean, living compresses your spine. Seriously. I mean, right? I mean, it does. You have your spine and it's getting compressed. So it just like you said, it's a matter of. I mean, I'm not a deadlifter every week kind of guy either. I don't think it's a super. The exercise has an interesting past because it used to be called the health lift. Actually, if you look at some of the old school books from like the 50s and stuff, it used to call it the health lift, and it's just simply because it's such a primal kind of movement. Pick something off the ground. So like you're gonna tell me you lived your life and you never had to pick something off the ground. I think it's so. I think it should definitely be in your repertoire sometimes. But I'm not a fan of people because it definitely there was like this culture of gym culture that evolved over time. I think maybe 20 years ago, you would have to go to like real like hardcore bodybuilder gyms and powerlifting gyms to find dudes that were like really deadlifting and really squatting with barbells. Because everybody was doing like other stuff, right? It was like, I don't know, aerobics and whatnot. But now it's, how many Instagram girls do you see on Instagram, Instagram model girls do you see on Instagram that deadlift and squat and do all kinds of crazy stuff with barbells, right? But now people are like so into it that I think it's bouncing back and people are hitting it so hard. So I go to the gym and I see dudes just throwing massive weights around in the gym every day. Literally day in, day out. They're just, doing, like I said, two times, 3 times their body weight every day, every other day, because they want to get big and strong because that's the movement that became the thing, the cool thing to do, right? So, yeah, I think it's just a bit of a culture influence thing happening there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's scary when you think about like how widespread nutritional deficiencies are, and maybe they're taking, their fish oil and what Charles Poliquin talked about and all the, the zinc and whatever. It's probably just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well, you brought up Charles, and I've also worked with him and trained under him and was super influenced by his stuff, a lot of his ideas. And when I got into him, I read an article where he recommended doing 30 to 60 grams of fish oil a day. So, one, and typically, right, one of those fish oil pills has like 1,000 milligrams. So that's a gram, right? So it's taking 30 to 60 of those a day for fat loss. And I did it. Oh, yeah, for a while. I mean, not that long, because I started getting just awful burps and my stool was just all over the place and my digestion felt awful. So, even if today somebody tells me fish oil is the thing, or, I don't really even care what you have to say about your studies, though they are important at times and they're useful. To me, it's just like, listen, I tried it and I felt terrible and it didn't work. So there's the case for fish oil for me, So I think I was doing, it was like based on your weight. So I think I was maybe doing something around 35 to 40 grams of pills of those a day, split out throughout the day. And then I've actually chatted with him one time, and I asked him, like, hey, why am I getting fish burps? And he told me, like, well, it's just you have bad digestion. You got to try these ones. These are better. I tried different ones, and they were the same. So, rest in peace. He's gone. He's not with us anymore. Passed away a long time. A few years ago. But yeah, been there, done that with the fish oil pills. I don't recommend.
Well, yeah, I used to sell algae oil. That was how I started Mitolife, because I believed in it, and I was doing shots of my own thing, like 30 grams at a time. And I don't remember getting the burps, but like, I think I was burning it as fuel, which is better than storing it.
Sure.
So I probably got hit a little less, but yeah, it's scary thinking back to consuming 30 grams of omega-3s with what we know.
That was your vegan days, right? Is that when?
Yep.
Yeah, because it seems like, people, if they take fish oil, it's like they're probably not vegan, obviously. But then if they're vegan and they still believe in that whole propaganda thing, they usually go for the algae oil, right? Yeah.
Yeah, schizochytrium. Yeah, it's dangerous. So you got off the omegas. Did you notice anything getting off the PUFAs, the polyunsaturated fats? Like, did you experience like weight loss or increase in energy or anything?
Yes. Well, again, it's a journey that never ends, I think. But at that time when I was doing those fish oil pills, I was definitely a low carber. Sugar's the devil. Don't eat the sugar. The three white devils, Paul Chek's kind of thing, right? White flour, sugar, milk. It's all gonna kill you. That's what makes people fat and gives them all problems. If they just cut that out, it fixes everything. So I was definitely a low carber. So I definitely, that whole thing of like switching my metabolisms to burning fat, right? Quote unquote, whatever that means. I don't think people really look into what that really means. I've definitely been there. And I've done that. And then as soon as I started adding carbohydrates back into my diet, hey, guess what? I started drinking less coffee. I started feeling definitely a lot more energized. I will say that I also did put on some weight. And I've had that same experience with some of my clients that have gone from going, very low carbohydrate diet. That's where I think people get that whole thing of like carbs make you fat. And then like, those like Instagram doctored guys, they'll like make fun of them and be like, stupid, like, what are you talking about? Carbs don't make you fat. It's all about calories. And I think it's like, well, yes, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But I think if you haven't been eating this, group macronutrient for a long time, and then you start consuming it a lot, like crazy. And even if you're still within your calories, right? I think it'll make some people fat for sure, because they've been avoiding this macronutrient for a long time. Like, why wouldn't it? And that's what happened to me. And that's why I thought initially, it's like, oh man, well, carbohydrates are the devil, right? You don't want to eat those, because if you overeat, because if they make me fat, then why should I eat them? But it was just a case of not consuming them for so long, or being so low carbohydrate, and I've done real carnivore diet, not like Paul Saladino style, where it's like carnivore diet, but it's like also cucumbers and Instapot white rice and fruits. I've done like real, low carb stuff.
Those are carnivore though, right?
100%. You remember the cave paintings of the Instapots, where they cook the rice, those. Yeah. So I've done a zero carb diets inspired by guys like Vince Gironda, who, was a famous guy back in the a Bronze era kind of bodybuilder back from, 50s, 60s, 70s. And yeah, again, it's like I think if you don't consume a certain macronutrient for a long time, and then you consume a lot of it, of course, you're going to see some changes, right? You're going to see some changes in your body. I mean, have you had that experience?
Oh yeah. Have you heard of Amin Ra?
Yeah. Vegan guy, right?
Yeah, he was promoted by Marcus Rothkranz, like a raw vegan.
Okay.
Guy.
Yeah.
That's how I found him.
Okay.
And I got on his program, and it was a total cult religion. It was like a religion thing. It was really scary because there was like an Egyptian vibe to it, and like like it was like practicing hieroglyphics and stuff. And but it was basically OMAD, one meal a day, but 1 hour eating window. So it was like to the extreme, like
Oh
almost
man.
breatharian. But I was deadlifting every day and like working out, and like
Oh
I was
man.
ripped. I mean, I was the most muscular I've ever been. But I think back to what you were talking about, like some people need to gain weight, and just
Mhm.
because you have a ripped like model body and you look good doesn't mean you're healthy, right? Like a lot of these influencers, we don't know the state of their liver or their pancreas,
Yep.
or everyone talks about the gut, but what about the liver, the pancreas, or the thyroid?
Hmm.
Probably not doing too well, even if they have six pack abs and they're super muscular.
Yep. Well, just recently, a famous, really big name in the bodybuilding scene died. John Meadows. He, guy, 48, 49 years of age, massive biceps, really good guy. Everybody likes him, and people would say it's genetics and whatnot. But yeah, it's just point is, it's just because you look healthy, and like you said, and you have your big muscles and the flat abs and whatever, it doesn't really mean you're healthy on the inside. And, yeah.
Where's that guy YYZ or something? Do you know that? There's like
Ziz, you
letters. Was
mean?
his
You
name?
mean Ziz?
Yes,
Z-Y-Z-Z?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, yeah, right. Yeah, the sort of the people who follow, Instagram doctors, they'll tell you, well, it's just genetics, he's had a condition. Yeah, he died, I think he was maybe 22 or 23, really young, really young. Yeah, but he was obviously, because his brother is still alive, right? He was obviously just abusing steroids, and which he was very open about. Um, he by the way is of Russian origin, so shout out to the Russians. But yeah, he died very young, and he was abusing him, and he was doing a lot. And if he was still here, I bet he would probably say, "Yeah, I was doing too much," and it's just not worth it, right? It's like, so, and he looked fabulous. I mean, he has to this day one of the biggest cult followings, in bodybuilding. Because yeah, he had a great body, which, he got there using steroids and of course hard work and of course dieting, but without those steroid things, it doesn't work quite the same. So, and he looked great, but yeah, died, I think, before even hitting his 25th birthday, probably. I'm not sure exactly how old he was, but I know really young.
So you talked about being a fat burner, and that's like, I think there was like a podcast called Fat Burning Man. Yeah, remember the
Yeah, guy
host?
with long hair. He's always like, "Hey, welcome to the Fat Burning Man." Yeah, I know that guy. He was around from like Mark Sisson days, like he before him. He was like really one of the OGs. I mean, I don't remember his name, but I know the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, people have this misconception, and I think we were both there for years, that like you go on a zero carb to activate your fat burning mechanism. But and then Mark Sisson came around and talked about metabolic flexibility, like you want to be able to shift fuels, right? Like
Yeah.
glucose or fat.
I made a post about that on my Instagram page. Yeah. Well, here's the thing with the activating your fat burning zone or whatever, fat burning machinery, they would say, right? That was his way of putting it. So if you're doing that, I mean, you are activating gluconeogenesis, right? Which means that your body was creating carbohydrates because it needs carbohydrates. It's kind of this like thing, like, hold on. So your body does need carbohydrates. So it's not like you're activating this machinery and then your body just goes, hey, fuck carbs. We don't need those guys anymore. We're just going to go off of fat and protein, right? And that's not what's happening. With the whole being a fat burning machine thing, it's like, if you are a fat burning machine, why does your body perform gluconeogenesis, right? It's creating carbohydrates from other substrates, right? So if it's like you really are, to me, if you're like this machine that just starts burning fat all of a sudden, I feel like your body should just go, okay, fuck carbohydrates. We don't need those guys anymore. Give me fats, give me proteins, and that's it. We're not going to create any carbohydrate because we're officially a fat burning machine. So why go through the trouble of creating carbohydrates? Well, it's obviously because you need carbohydrates in your diet, and your body will make them whether you have them or not. So I think just thinking about that should get the ball rolling for some people about diet stuff. I think it's an important question to ask yourself.
Yeah, because the argument is that the cells can use ketones, and that's a cleaner burning fuel. And it's interesting. I've interviewed Morley Robbins like 9 times in my podcast, and I like talking with people that have different opinions. I think that's a lost art. And
It's an awesome art. Yeah, it's an awesome lost art. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just saying that's why one of the reasons I love your podcast is that you're not afraid to do that. It's an awesome thing, I think.
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah. And we always get into it about sugar because he thinks that, sugar / carbohydrate, not white sugar, but just carbs, period, like mess up the way your body metabolizes iron. He's all about, iron, which I am a lot, but I think that you can't discount what you're talking about. Like gluconeogenesis is a backup system. And like, if you don't consume carbohydrates, you're running on that backup system, and then you're running on stress hormones. And those have all these effects that these keto people are not talking about. They just like to highlight, oh, you get more ATP from 1 mole of fat than 1 mole of glucose. And so therefore fat is better.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. To me, if it were the case that you can just take out carbohydrates out of your diet, and then after a certain amount of time that, what do they call it? The keto flu or whatever. After that, your body just no longer creates or wants carbohydrates. Then that whole thing would make sense. It would make sense to me. But it doesn't happen that way, right? It's like it activates your cortisol, it activates your other hormones. And then, but of course they would tell you that, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I guess that could be arguable, right? But whatever the case is, it's like your body still wants the carbohydrates. It does. It just does. It just does it, whether you want him or not.
Yeah. And there's that saying like stress is the perceived need for sugar. And I think we all remember times in our life where there's just, a car accident, or you move, or a breakup, or just like extreme stresses, lose your job or whatever. And you just feel like you can't get out of it. And, once I discovered like just taking a spoonful of honey or like having some milk and like what that could do to lower my stress, like immediately, it was a game changer. Just it was another tool to use when I experienced stress.
Yeah. Another thing I think it's like, that's another kind of clue to me, again, because I think that most people, not everybody, of course, well, there's never a one size fits all answer to anything. But I think that most people, when they're stressed, what are they craving? Are they craving like a steak with broccoli, or are they craving like milk or ice cream, and donuts, right? Usually it's that sugary stuff. And I'm one of those too. When I'm the most stressed, I want a big bowl of ice cream. I put some banana in there. I'll dump some honey on top. I'll put some bee pollen on there. And that's what makes me feel better. Although I do love a juicy burger. It's one of my favorite American foods. I think that's one of the blessings of American food culture that was created for us, that is a burger. It's delicious. But when I'm stressed, I want sugar. I don't want more steak. I don't want cod. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Burger is one of the quickest recharges I've found.
So when you're stressed out, you craving a burger, huh? That's you.
Yep. Yeah. But there's the bun, there's some carbs in there, and then I'll have a Mexican Coke with it or something.
But you're still getting some sugar in there. Well, and like I said, that's what I'm saying. It's not the case for everybody. But I mean, a lot of people I know, they just crave carbohydrates when they're stressed out. I work with clients one-on-one here, and it's like, when they're having a stressful day and they've been working 12-hour shifts, whatever, crazy hours. And I'm like, what do you feel like eating? They're like, I just want ice cream. I just want a bowl of carbohydrates. And I'm like, go ahead, do your thing. So, but then of course there are those people that crave fat, I guess, though. I wonder how much of that is the Sean Baker in all of us. You know what I'm saying? They're like, more steak fixes all, and it's like, maybe they're just so strong-willed. They're just like, all right, I'll just eat more steak, and they feel satisfied, and that's fine. And I've been there and done that too. I used to eat, I've done the whole, Agenus Wanderplanets thing. I've talked about that with also Kyle Mamunis about that. So, we've been there and done that, raw chicken and all that kind of stuff. But I usually don't crave it when I'm stressed out. I crave sweet stuff.
Yeah. And there's definitely a case for protein, right? I was at a party last night, and I was talking about nutrition with just some quote unquote lay people that don't like focus on it like us. And one person was like, yeah, I just recently learned that we're not eating enough saturated fat. Like our brain's mostly fat. And I was like, oh
Welcome
no,
to the party.
I'm
It's
just
been
gonna
a few years. We've been
like
going at it for about 20 years now, maybe.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's like just people are like hyper focusing on things instead of finding a balance, right? Which is why I appreciate what you share and
Yeah.
just this community of people that kind of just talk about not restricting any macronutrient because
Yeah.
it's just logical.
And I've done that also, though, what you're talking about with protein. Like, I've done the traditional or common, I guess, like dietary journey of like a lot of people do. Sounds like maybe you've done the same thing. It's just kind of going vegetarian, then going full vegan, and then bouncing full back, going to like a heavy meat diet, and then maybe incorporating everything all again. I've done the vegetarian thing for a long time. And, you know, if I had to do vegetarianism where I could eat eggs and cheese, I could live like that for a long time. I know myself. Like I enjoy that fine. But I've done very little, or I've done also vegan diet. And yeah, it was like as soon as I had some salmon, it was like a game changer. You know, I had a long period of time where I was having no meat whatsoever. And then I had some salmon, I remember. And then I was just like, okay, yeah, I definitely was missing high quality protein. And then that went on to, you know, having steaks and burgers. And I was like, okay, I can never live without burgers again, you know?
Yeah, I had a stint for years where I was trying to do hemp seeds, chia seeds, and algae for my protein.
Yeah.
Like
And deadlift heavy, good combination.
Right. It's like blue-green algae and spirulina are like packed with protein. Let's try it. You know, it didn't end well.
Yeah. You know, I bring up bodybuilders a lot, like, you know, real professional bodybuilders. A lot of these guys are very cautious about their health and do their blood work and do all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of them that they're just, you know, taking as much steroids as possible and as many drugs as possible and doing whatever works because they're just trying to get big and they want to look good. Okay. And I always bring up the point that it's like, if the vegan diet had so much protein that it made you huge, because a lot of vegans will argue that, right? Like, oh, you know, vegan diet has more protein actually pound for pound or whatever, right? Because if you eat a ton of broccoli, it has more protein than a steak. But anyway, you know, if that actually worked, I think every bodybuilder would be vegan because they don't really care what they're eating. Those ones that I'm talking about, right? They're just trying to get huge. And if that diet gave them that much protein that they grew bigger and stronger and faster, they would all be vegan. And there's just not any professional bodybuilder that I know that was vegan. The only one that came close back in the day was Bill Pearl, who's a legend, still around. He's in his 90s now, I think. And he was vegetarian, which again, he ate eggs, he ate cheese, drank milk, and that to me is a big difference than from being full vegan and trying to tell me that, you know, you have enough protein in your diet. I just don't think it's the case.
Did you ever hear of the book called Vegan Bodybuilding?
Yeah, of course.
I read that and I was all about it. And I bought my Cliff Bars and I was eating tons of Cliff Bar.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, again, am I saying you're going to like, you know, die and be a stick no, I'm not saying that. But my point is just, again, it's just, pound for pound, it does not compare the animal protein versus, you know, vegan sources of protein. You know, if it's an ethical, moral reason, and those are all different debates to me. You know, I'm just like, that's fine. We can talk about that. That's a different conversation. But if we're talking about like real bioavailable protein that will actually make your muscle grow, it doesn't compare. And I've experienced that myself and with clients who I've worked with who were vegetarian and vegan. I still have some that kind of dabble. They still have that whole like kind of like, you know, only eat meat once a week or twice a week. And females and males. And they all say like, yeah, you know, it's true. I kind of feel a little bit stronger when I'm eating meat and when I have my workout that day and you know, or around it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things didn't start to move for me until I ate enough carbs and protein together. And I was like, wow, I feel amazing. I feel like most people are under eating protein. But I have heard that if you eat enough carbs, that'll spare your protein. Like you don't need, like your protein requirements will go down if you're eating carbohydrates.
I think that's very true. Yeah, I think that's very true. I've experienced that too. That's what I'm saying. As soon as I started going from being a fat burning machine, quote unquote, to including carbohydrates. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. just cravings for a lot of protein went down.
Mhm.
And again, and I do think the whole protein thing with like hardcore bodybuilders is overplayed. The whole like, I definitely don't think you should be eating 4 chicken breasts a day. Like, I think that's probably very unhealthy. Especially the type of quality chicken breast that they usually buy, right, from like these cheap stores, and it's just like, from Walmart or whatever. So yeah, I think it's overplayed. And like you said, I think it's about finding that right balance. Probably most people need either a little bit more protein and fat or a little bit more carbohydrate, and then it's up to you to kind of figure that out. You gotta play around with it and do it different ways. And also it can change, from literally day to day sometimes. Sometimes I'll do a leg workout, like a very hard leg workout. And dude, like all I want to do is just pound carbohydrates. For me, it works. But I've met other people that all they want and crave is like steaks, and that's cool. That's you do you. But for me, if I wake up the next day and my legs are crazy sore, I just want like potatoes and white Japanese sweet potatoes and stuff like that. I just want like carbohydrate stuff and a burger, like you said, maybe with some home cooked fries and some good buns. So that's what I'm craving.
You don't skip leg day. That's good.
Yeah, I try not to.
Be like
But
a
only
stick
if it's
figure from the waist.
unconventional. You can't do the deadlift and squats only. It has to be transverse, plane. You got to do that.
So you made a post on food intolerance testing, and I thought that was interesting because I get messages almost every day like, Matt, so and so is lactose intolerant, or I don't do well with dairy. What should I do? And do you think like food allergies and that whole thing is real, or what's your general thoughts on that whole topic?
Well, my general thoughts is that I think people shouldn't, first of all, before asking you questions like that, I think they should just take a step back and just understand that things are not that easy and that nobody should even tell you, be like, okay, do it or don't do it. I think it's like, hold on. There's such a thing as maybe right now I'm not tolerating milk. Maybe later on I will. But also, yeah, maybe you are. I don't know. You have this thing against milk that just doesn't work for you. You've tried it many times, and that's cool too. I do feel like people usually working with clients is like, they'll say, yeah, I've tried that. And it's like, how many times have you tried it? Once? Twice? I mean, did you really try? Did you like really try your best to make this thing work? No, usually people just try something once, and if it doesn't work, they're kind of done with it. And I understand, because it can be annoying and frustrating maybe if you're trying to fix your diet. But I think it's important to try things several times, and really honestly try them, just like with diets. Don't tell me you've tried being vegan and it didn't work if you only tried it for 5 days. Like I said, I don't care like, if it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, really try it. Try it for 6 months or try it for a few months. So anyway, so that's my first step, is I think just understand that it's not always as easy as like it works or it doesn't work. End of question. It's not black and white like most things in life. As far as like food allergies, I mean, I've had, when I was really young, I was tested for, one of those like prickly tests that doctors give you, and I was apparently allergic to like dogs and cats and cow's milk, and all of those things I've had my entire life, by the way. And I've never noticed any, visceral kind of right in front of my face problems with any of those things. So I think those sort of tests are really dumb. Those may be the worst. But then I've done things like, which was called kind of the golden standard, and it's so expensive. It's the Cyrex Labs. I think they're based out of Arizona. It's this lab where you can do food intolerance testing, and they do all sorts of different tests there, specifically for wheat. They do specifically for dairy. So I've done those, and they weren't really, they weren't consistent with what I noticed in my own body and what happened with me. And I've also I also have done it with my mom. My mother's done it. And one thing that, stood out that I still remember, that I think I mentioned in my post, is she was kind of flagged or whatever, because there's sort of a scale of like least tolerant to most tolerant. She was flagged very intolerant to goat milk. Okay. And her entire life, she has had problems with dairy and stuff. But again, I also don't think it's just because I think there's a deeper issue there too, which we can talk about later. But anyway, so she actually prefers goat milk on her own. When she has a goat milk, she says she never notices any flatulence, any gas, any digestive problems, and it works best for her, even though this test said that it didn't work. Okay. I've done the test too, and it told me that I was intolerant to sardines and wheat and all sorts of stuff. Now, wheat, I definitely have noticed that before. It's not an optimal food, daily food for me, I don't think. Sardines was another thing that came up, and that was just, I think it was just because simply I was eating a lot of that in college when I did that test. So anyway, I've retaken that test, and this was years ago too. And guess what? All those values, all those foods changed, literally, just completely different stuff. So I don't think it's consistent, Some people have gotten consistent results, but I haven't heard, not 100%. I've heard like maybe 50% of the stuff still remains there. So I think if you're taking out some foods and then bringing them back, how long you're taking them out for, what is the quality of the food, and what type of food quality are they testing? Like when they test sardines, are they getting organic sardines from, whatever the most expensive source they can find? Or are they testing like sardines from Walmart, that's like packed in cottonseed oil? Is it the sardines or is it the cottonseed oil that's in there, right? So I think there's just so many variables with those things, and doing them myself, doing it with my mom, doing it with a few clients, I've never found a consistent pattern to it. And so I think you paying attention to what you're eating and what's working and what's not working literally day to day is your best food intolerance test that there is.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you tell clients to try different brands and sources of dairy? Because like you said, they only try it once and they quit. Do you think they're just trying like one brand of milk and it's probably fortified, like A&D?
100%. Exactly. And I've had that experience too with many clients that would just go and they'd buy, again, just a conventional store-bought, like, a gallon of milk. And it's just like, oh my God, even, if you also like, you have a goat, right? So you're used to drinking really good quality milk. I mean, when's the last time you tried some of those like conventional milk? Long time, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you have, like, do you ever notice how much worse the taste is? Just beside whatever, like, it's just the taste is awful it's compared to like a real quality of milk. That's why I'm also kind of thankful to have grown up, the way that I did, kind of in in Russia, and not being, kind of not being too rich, where, it was very common for people to just sell raw milk. Your neighbors, or you go to the farmer, like a real farmer's market, you buy it from there. To that, I remember when I moved here and we had somebody gave me some skim milk, which I've never actually heard of. It was always some sort of fat in Russia. I've never had skim 0% fat milk until I moved here. I remember thinking, this is just white water. Like, this is what they drink here? It was literally, it's very, I remember it. So like it was yesterday, but it was very, I was like, what is going on? People drink this shit here? Like this is what you call milk? This is just white water and it tastes so weird.
Do you think there's, well, first before I say this, you said you picked huckleberries back in Russia, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All kinds of berries. Yeah. Huckleberries, are little blueberries that are a little bit smaller. Like, I guess you call them wild blueberries here. I'm talking about those tiny little ones. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Up here we have thimbleberries and thistleberries, and those I'd never heard of before I moved to Idaho. And it's so cool to like go beyond store-bought berries, just gathering them from bushes outside.
Yeah, talk about another thing that's like so overrated, because, and also like all the health kind of people in the scene always push raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries, right? And they're okay. I mean, like if they're organic, and even then they're not that tasty. In Russia, the blackberries are thinner and longer, and they're sweet. So I don't know if that's a different breed or if it's even called a blackberry, but it's so much better. And I generally don't buy those like typical blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries store-bought things that often.
Did you do any other foraging when you were growing up there? Like,
Mushrooms is a big one because they're everywhere in the northern climates. Mushrooms are very common. Things like chaga are really common in Russia. You can just walk up to trees and they'll be growing right there. I was luckily my grandmother had like a garden, and not like like a 4x4 foot box in the backyard, but like a real big garden. So they'd have cherries and strawberries and yeah, I that's what I'm saying. Living where I live, it's kind of like, oh man, I miss that stuff because you cannot. It does not taste the same. It's not even close. I mean, you can find some stuff that's good, and I guess close, but it's not the same thing. I really miss those like real wild, from soil to mouth kind of things. It's amazing.
yeah, when you interviewed me on your show, you mentioned that you eventually want to get out of LA. Do you think you'll end up in the mountains like me?
Oh, for sure. I don't know about the mountains. I mean, see, I do love my beach. That's the thing. But again, counting that our beach has been recently flagged for being filled with a bunch of poop from the waste system out here, and they were told everybody to stay away. I think that dream is over too. So definitely, yeah.
It's wild down there. Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's like one at any moment the apocalypse will start happening here for sure.
Erewhon will be raided first.
You're right. Yeah, everybody's gonna take the deuterium depleted water first. That's one thing that happened, over quarantine that I found so fascinating because places like LA, New York, all these cities, so many vegans live here and all kinds of plant or at least plant-based kind of people that advocate that that's the most important thing, that's what's crucial to our health. When the quarantine happened here, well, literally when it just broke up, when they said, okay, everybody's going to be sitting at home, everybody was going to the stores and buying up stuff. And I went to the stores and there was just, shelves of just empty stuff. It was like, I think I posted one picture where there was, and we had no toilet paper for weeks, dude. There was no toilet paper, which is funny that's what everybody bought, right? That's how shows you how inept people are to surviving, that they think like the toilet paper is the first thing you should buy. It was really funny, to watching people like walk out with like 4 boxes of toilet paper and just like, hey, you can shower or like use it, different, oh my God. So anyway, I'm not going to describe that, but
a bidet. I love my bidets.
yeah. Well, they're common in Europe. Yeah. So, but anyway, but then you looked at the food shelves and you know what was still standing there? All those plant-based milks and all that stuff. All the real milk was gone. All the juice that was like good real juice was gone. What you had left is like Kool-Aid and like almond milk and stuff like that. I had a couple of days where I literally went from store to store trying to find some milk and I couldn't find any. So that was the LA apocalypse happening.
Did you go for the oat milk then?
Yeah, that was the number one choice. Yes. All of that was gone. Everybody immediately, because that's life-sustaining stuff right there. Oat milk, so packed with beautiful, oily vegetable oils and additives. It extends lives.
I was actually fresh making soy milk because, I'd learned that soy was, had phytoestrogens and it was not good. And then I was like, let me test this during my 1 hour a day eating window. And I started actually like soaking soybeans. And then I bought a machine that like processed them into soy milk. It actually tasted decent, but I definitely was more stressed. My estrogen definitely went up with that.
Yeah. But even that though, I do think that's a lot better. And I think it's very different from the soy milk you buy in the little cartons at the store. I think that stuff is like the real stuff, and I think that's a lot better than what people usually buy for their lattes or whatever.
But ideally, you go to the goat milk, right? Because you have the cow
Yeah.
milk. You have the retinol. It's really hard to get vitamin A. I think a lot of people are just vitamin A deficient.
I think so too, man. So what do you recommend to people for vitamin A stuff? What's your like biggest sources?
I mean, beef liver, eggs, or any organ meats in general. Bison liver is good, elk liver. But liver, eggs, I think it's in most animal products. I mean, milk, pretty sure beef has some, but those first 3 sources are the richest. And yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Ben Greenfield last week, and he was saying he was using copper peptides on his skin. and he used it like 3 times, and his like I think he cut himself and his blood was like blue, and then his tongue turned like green. And I was
Well,
like, wow, that was probably retinol deficiency, because if you have too much copper in your system, not enough retinol to like activate it or like
mhm.
turn it into active copper, then you get like quote copper toxicity. But I think that's kind of like a myth that's overblown. People just don't understand the A connection
Yeah.
with copper.
Well, and it's also funny that it's all animal sources, right? That you just mentioned, right? Carrots don't work, do they? Not the same thing. Yeah.
Speaking of carrots, do you use that with your clients? Like the raw carrot? Do you find that's beneficial? Or?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, well, first of all, I just think it's actually a pretty good and safe source of fiber, you know. A lot of people do need fiber. I mean, most people, well, I think everybody needs some fiber in their diet. But I think a lot of people are using shittier forms of fiber, you know, like I don't know, bran and stuff like that. And I think the carrot is just a good source of fiber. I always have really good like stool and stuff like that after eating carrots. The whole estrogen thing, I do think it works, that it helps you detoxify some of that. I don't know how much, because I've never, I tried looking into some of the research, and you really would have to test a lot more to figure that out. But nonetheless, I still think it's a very beneficial food to do it like the repeat style.
Have you ever gone like zero fiber? Because I did that for an extended period of time, and I got loose stools
Yeah.
pretty shortly after.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My Vince Gironda days when I was trying to really lean out and see how that works. I would just do 3 servings. His style was 3 servings of meat a day, any meat, organ meats, any meat you want, just that it's 0 carbohydrates, right? And so I would do that, and then on the 3rd or 4th day, you would refuel. So he was smart enough to understand that you need to refuel your glycogen stores, you know. Well, it's probably even beyond that. You don't need to, you probably need to be refueling them all the time. But anyway, he was at least smart enough to understand that you need to refuel your glycogen stores. Otherwise, you're just going to keep digging that hole deeper and feeling worse and worse and worse. So I would have 3 days on like that. And then on the 4th day, I would have like a meal of whatever, some healthy carbohydrates like potatoes or whatever, maybe some bread or even some, you know, ice cream. I would just go for whatever worked, because I was so lean at that time that it was like, oh man, I can just do whatever I want. But yeah, those 3 days, my poop was awful, terrible. And then that 4th and 5th day, I would feel a lot better. I would go to the bathroom and I would feel a lot more relieved, and it would be a pleasurable experience, right? Which again, it's like, I don't care about the studies, whatever you want to tell me. I know there's some studies that say people should have less fiber, and that fixes a lot of their issues. And I understand that exists, and I'm sure I'm aware of that. But I do think that going to the restroom regularly is a very important thing for humans. So
Yeah, Adam Bergstrom posts a lot about poop, and he said he has like 8 bowel movements a day or something. I think it's quite a lot.
that's quite a lot, probably. Yeah, that's probably a little too much. Yeah, I don't want to be like one of those vegan guys, right? You ever see that meme where it's like vegan consuming another kale shake, and then their butthole is just going, "I'm tired, boss. I'm tired." It's that guy from Coffee from that movie with Tom Hanks. You know what I'm talking about, right? Or no? What's that movie? Green Mile. Green Mile came to me.
Well, we have to shout out your Instagram meme channel, Just a Sip of Coffee, right?
Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, if you're a fan of hating oat milk, that's the channel for you, because I just keep it clean there. It's just that, and just other poop and coffee memes. That's it.
Yeah. The movie clips you pick are great.
But yeah, I think 8 times. I think, you know, once to twice a day, a pleasurable experience in the toilet. I think it's important. You know, I think, yeah, maybe 8 times is a bit much. But, you know, hey, if it works and he's not bothered by it, whatever. I also think, I mean, nobody wants to talk about it. I've been meaning to make a post about that too, but literally how your poop looks, you know, your stool, I think that's important. You know, if it looks like oatmeal coming out, it's probably something is not happening correctly. You know, you want to have a good solid sausage coming out of there. So, yeah, it's an important thing to look into. And it's really popular in like Chinese medicine and holistic medicine, all that kind of stuff.
Are you a fan of the squatty potty, like squatting?
No, because I'm not that dorky. But sure, if you want to use it, that's cool. I mean, the way I deal with it is I just squat actually, like in my daily existence, like I'll just squat down to do stuff. And you see that with kids, by the way. If you ever go to the park and watch kids that are just walking around, they have perfect squats. They'll just squat down, sit there and play on the ground or do something. I do that throughout my day. I mean, I'll just sit down. I don't know if I'm cleaning the floor, I'll just squat down, get in the squat, sit. So I do think being able to do that movement is very important for your colon health and just your overall hip, knee, and ankle health. Because if you can't get that low, because a lot of people can't, right? That's a problem. It's the same as if like you weren't able to stand up and walk. To me, it's the same. It's just should be a part of your daily existence. You should be able to squat down and sit down there. Because, the original intent of that movement is to poop, right? And if you can go on YouTube and find some, whatever is left that we haven't killed off yet or messed with the clans that are still left, the wild indigenous people that are left in like Africa, they'll squat around a fire, literally sit in a squat and eat. So, so I think it's an important move to have it. And if the only time you can get that move in is on your Squatty potty while you're on your iPhone, I guess that's better than nothing. So
looking at your Instagram memes.
Exactly. Oh, don't forget.
Yeah, I first heard about that from Daniel Vitalis, the squatting thing, and he I'm sure he got it from someone else, and it made sense to me. So I started to, instead of just sitting on the ground, I would just squat in my resting position, and it did feel really natural, and it felt good on my back and everything. I mean, isn't it a natural like back relief?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Move. One guy that doesn't get credited a lot is Ido Portal. People, because he's kind of sometimes silly a little bit, takes himself a little too seriously. But he had a great challenge, though, that was called, I think it was just 30 days of 30 minutes a day squatting. And it wasn't just 30 minutes at once, because he knows that most people won't be able to do 30 minutes at once. Now, I could sit in a squat, but that's a good test also to do for people, just to squat down and see how long you can go at once, and if you're sweating, which I meet a lot of people like that, and I've met over the years, that after a minute, they're like, my legs are numb, I can't do anything. You have a problem. So, he did this great challenge, and people can find out about it. And I would recommend people doing that challenge of trying to squat 30 minutes throughout the entire day. So you could split it up, 2 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, yada, yada, yada. Because what you're doing is you're tucking, your tailbone tucks under, right? When you're squatting down, you're rounded over. And so when that's happening, you are getting your back relieved, you're getting your hips to fold. You're also just compressing your tissues, your veins, all those things that are there, your colon. And it's just, you're just doing like a pumping kind of action for your veins and arteries and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a very important move. And I remember also Daniel talked about it back in the day when he used to have those like 5-finger shoes. I remember him squatting down. There's a video he made back in the day. This was like OG YouTube stuff, right? But yeah, he was really good about spreading that word out too. And it's an important move, I think.
What do you think about hanging? Like over the years, I've always put up one of those pull-up bars in the door. And I love that, just to kind of crack my back, or as I'm walking by, just stretch on it. And I remember someone told me that that's a good kind of shotgun approach, is just to hang, like to decompress yourself. But I think if you want to, like, you could put your legs forward too. There's kind of different schools of thought on hanging. But are you a fan of that?
Big fan. Yeah, big fan. And again, it's like, yes, pull-ups are great, and working your upper back and getting your hands over your head. But just being able just to hold your body weight over your head. Having your hands over your head, right? And just holding on to your body weight. Because you're getting your arms up, you're stretching your elbows, you're stretching your shoulders, you're working your grip, which most people, there was those popular studies back in the day of people correlating grip strength to longevity, right? With people with the weakest grips live the shortest amounts of lives, and that's like, it's too picky, it's one of those like common like catchphrase kind of, study things. But I think, you should be able to hold on to your body weight. Like, why not? That's a good idea, If you're on a Titanic and something happens, you got to like jump off the boat and hold on to some rails while you're coming up. You should be able to do that. I think it's a good thing to be able to do, right? So yeah, it's a great thing. And also, again, to mention Ido, he popularized that also. I think for a lot of people, because a lot of people, plagiarize stuff and not even knowing where it came from. He was a big influence on people. And he also talked about a doctor, and I can't remember his name or the book, but it's pretty easy to find. It's a book where a doctor who's an orthopedic surgeon, where he would just prescribe people hanging before doing any sorts of shoulder surgeries. Yeah, he would tell people how to do it, and he has some couple of like shoulder cuff exercises in there with like light dumbbells. It's a pretty easy to find book. I have it here somewhere, but I think people will find it easily. So so it's people, if a doctor recommended it over doing surgeries, I think there's a lot to that.
Have you ever used or had clients use like an inversion swing? Like I've used that off and on. There sometimes called yoga swings. And,
To do what? What have you used to do? What'd you do on it now?
Some people I've talked to are like, yeah, I've seen people get ripped just with that, because you can do like, and I've done it, like push-ups in midair with it. Like you kind of flip backwards. It's really fun. You're kind of using your body weight to do push-ups in the air. And it feels really good. Like you're just stretching everything.
Yeah. Fan of that stuff. Again, it's really like, I think people should be aware of just like unwinding stuff that we do in our daily existence that's so winding. Like, for example, like everything we do today is like centered being in front of you, like driving, it's in front of you, eating, like your hands are in front of you. You know what I'm saying? You're on your phone, it's all in front of you. Like rarely do people put their hands up, right? Unless if they go to the gym, and like we talked about, like hanging, right? And rarely are people upside down, especially. Like people are really afraid of getting on their hands, which is one thing that I work on with people, is like handstand stuff. And yeah, sure, we can do like advanced handstands and all that kind of stuff. But I just literally get people just to go upside down. And if that means maybe getting on one of those yoga swings or an inversion table, where you just hook your feet up, I think it's really good. You're just getting the lymph nodes to move some of that liquid stuff, and you're getting upside down. You do feel refreshed. Now you gotta like spread it out, because it can be potent. Because some people will go upside. I've had people go upside down and they get a nosebleed right away because they never go upside down. Yeah, so be careful. But I think doing all those things that are like the opposite of your daily existence, I think is really important. So like I said, that's why when I see people that go into the gym and all they do is like crunches and bench press, when literally, like I just talked about, your daily existence is like touching the steering wheel, eating in front of you, being on your computer. It's all more of this kind of frontal plane stuff. It's like, try to do something for your back, do the opposite, do some pulling exercises, or go upside down, get on your hands. I think it's really important for people's health.
Yeah, I'm becoming more aware of my neck over the years, just because you hear about text neck and you're on the phone, and when you work on your phone, it's just something you have to do. So some people say just hold it in front of your face, which I found kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
So my technique is just to do, if I'm doing my red light or something, I'll just kind of put my head back. So I'm doing kind of the opposite movement. Instead of my neck forward, it's completely back. Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think that could be bad?
No, I think, I think it's just about being aware, right? Like the fact that you're aware of it, it's already a big plus, and it's a big step, and it's an important thing, because most people are just unaware. That's what I'm saying. They're driving all day, they're looking down, chin tucked, then they're on their phone all day, or better yet, right? They're driving and they're on their phone at the same time. So it's just like, and they're just like so zoned out or zoned in, I guess, to what they're doing, but zoned out from the world and their existence, that I think it's really important. There's like a chiropractor I know here, Dr. Ken, that he has this little stick and he smacks people, and when they are on their phone and they're looking down, he always tells them to, raise their hand to eye level and then use their phone. That's fine, but don't look down and have your chin down. And again, it's like, it's not to be like a, super anal about this stuff. It's just like little things. Yeah. It's like, just be aware of it, that like, if you're doing that all day, try not to do it more, try to do something different. Or like you said, tilt your head back, or maybe lay on the floor. Just the simple, I recommend that often, just people finding some hardwood floor or something. You don't want to lay on carpet because it's too soft, or maybe a tiled floor, and just laying on their back on the floor. not tucking their chin down, not looking at their phone, just lay on their back. You can put some music on or meditate or put a podcast on. And just that fact of just having your back on a hardwood floor, again, you're decompressing some of those tissues. You're just letting them naturally flow down. It's a really simple thing, but you'd be surprised how many people, first of all, can't do it because they feel so uncomfortable because they're so wound up and they're so used to being like, like what I call like a cashew. They look like a cashew all day long. You know what I'm saying? It's just so hard for some people to just literally lay on their back flat and just have no, just relax into that position.
That's a good point. So are you a fan of chiropractors? Because I was seeing one earlier this year and I stopped going just because I got really busy with moving and stuff. But I was going like once a week, once every few weeks. And I felt great doing it regularly. Some people say it's not worth it. Like it's a waste of time, but I definitely felt an improvement.
Yeah. Well, it's like all things, right? It's like you find this thing and then people make it into a bigger thing and then that thing becomes something else. And then it kind of changes. And then from it's like playing a game of telephone, right? It used to be this thing. And then now it's like not maybe a complete different thing, but like a very different thing. I think the origins of chiropractic, like the way that, because, they used to prescribe stuff too, now they're really limited in what they do. And you got to like think about that, like why has that happened? And it's because, the mainstream kind of medical practice, clamp down on that shit over time, right? They don't want them to be able to do anything. Just do your little pop, twist, and get out. That's all that we can do. And then because of that, they'll tell you got to come and see me every day, And I think it could be overkill too, right? If you're like, so if you can't do anything in your daily existence without going to see your chiropractor, I think you're having a problem. I think, just like all fields, there's good ones and there's, worse ones. So obviously finding one that you jive with is really important, and not taking that stuff too seriously either. Like I said, because I've met people that, like they go literally, they've gone every day and they say, unless if I go to my chiropractor today, I can't do anything. And, I think if you're at that point where you can't move your body through the world, right, without seeing your chiropractor, I don't think you're fixing anything, right? I think you're just probably at the very best setting something back, and then moving through the world. So it's like, well, why does it keep going out? Well, I don't know. Well, okay, so we got to think about that. So maybe, so I do like seeing them. It's just if we got to really jive with them and you got to really do your research. I don't think those clinics that are like, like $50 a pop that are like, you just walk in, walk out, I don't think they do much good to people, So yeah, ones that are good ones are very, holistic in their approach. They'll talk to you about other stuff and they're not trying to sell you packages to go every day. I think that's important.
Those are good points. Yeah. The neck thing, they crack the neck, always feels amazing to me.
Yeah, no, it does, man. I mean, I do it myself. I can do it to myself. I can adjust, and I've adjusted people and manipulate. Well, not adjusted chiropractic style. I don't want to get sued, whatever. But, manipulating people, moving people around. And again, if you think about half the stuff that we're doing, just like I was saying, they're kind of just doing the opposite of what you're doing all day long, right? Like they're twisting you. And you're never twisting yourself during the day. You do see people sitting down on their chair, right, and doing that little twist and pop that they do. Like, there we go, I just did one. So, and that's kind of what a chiropractor is doing, right? So you just for a higher fee, obviously. But they can also do a more precise adjustment. They can do your neck. Like, I don't think people should be cracking their neck all the time by themselves, but it feels good. Yeah.
I used to grow up like cracking my knuckles all the time, and they crack less now, which I think is a good thing. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I read at some point that that's not good if you can crack your knuckles.
Yeah, it's like arguable. What is that thing that's cracking anyways, right? People will tell you like they know that it's just the gas escaping, blah, 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 over the knuckles. I don't know, chiropractors call it, what's the word that they use? Sorry, I can't think of it for the this whatever they're adjusting that spot. Can't think of that word, but they'll tell you that's what's happening, is that this little movement is happening there. So I don't think you should be, like I said, I don't think it's a good thing if you're crackling all the time, because I met clients like that I'll give them an exercise and they're just crackling throughout the entire exercise the whole time. I think something is a little too loosey-goosey there, and that's probably not good, so you got to look up into that.
Random question. Have you ever done acupuncture? I'm thinking about doing it. I've never done it, and I just feel a pull to try it. So it seems more like an energy thing, right?
Exactly. Yes. I've done multiple sessions. I've done with different practitioners. Good. I've done good and bad. Okay. The bad first, I guess. Okay. The bad is like, I walked into this office and this guy stared at me directly into my eyes, and he had this very low voice, and he said, "Hey, Leo, how are you doing today?" And I'm good, man. What's up? Are you good though? Are you? It's like I think so. No, you're not good. Your energy's a little off today. It's scattered. Oh, okay. It's like this. He's trying to be this like very deep, immersive kind of guru guy, and I get that. He's trying to connect with me on a weird, the secret, the power of now guru kind of thing, right? The secret. So, and then he'll do the session and he'll try to make it, put some music on, put some essences on, and I don't really feel anything. And I've had good experiences where the guy talked to me, like, "Oh, well, I'll try this and we'll see how that goes." Oh, that's not really working. Okay, cool. Like, he's humble, he can just flat out say, "I don't know if it's going to help or if it's going to work, but we're going to try it. And you can try this and we can try that." And he's talkative and is like a normal person. So I try to stay away from those guru type of guys. But hey, remember Steven Seagal, right? What was that movie where he goes in a coma for like 10 years or something and then wakes up and starts doing acupuncture on himself? I think there's definitely something to it. And again, I think it's just really about people connecting with a good practitioner. I don't think it's the practice. I think it's the practitioner,
That's a good point. And you don't feel the needles going in, right?
No. Yeah. Just find a guy you really enjoy or you just like as a person, or seem, obviously you're not going to know right away, but that you jive with, and try it out. Again, also people do expect things to happen overnight, right? Like, I want to gain muscle or I want to lose fat in 2 days. Same thing with like acupuncture. It's like, fix me, right? And it's like, well, it's not like that. But hey, if you go to an office and you go there for an hour and you leave feeling better or at least a little relieved, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. What about regular massages? Are you a fan of those? I was getting into a weekly or every 2 weeks kind of thing for a while. But.
Yeah, big fan of massages. I think they're actually even more. I think, well, again, because they're moving physical stuff, right? With acupuncture, the idea is that, right, you're moving chi in the right directions and all that stuff, and the winds and all that. And there's some interesting stuff in there. And I actually at one point thought about going to Emperor's College out here in LA. It's an acupuncture school. But I kind of lost my interest after, realizing it doesn't work the way that you wish it worked. But as far as massages go, it's like, and again, I've had good massages and I've had terrible massages. So, and also, by the way, I've had good massages with people who have 40 different certificates, and they've worked with, Cristiano Ronaldo, and they've done this and they've done that, and they've had this client, and they're certified, and they, by who's this, whatever, certifier. And the massage is just very regular. And then I've had massages at small little Asian spots, that are like, you're like, this is probably illegal. Well, the business is run illegally, not what's happening there. Anyway, beside the point. But I've had massages there that they felt like this person knows what they're doing with their hands. And once you find that person, I recommend sticking to those people. Everybody's going to be different. I think they're really beneficial because massages, again, you're moving physical lymph, physical matter, right? And, if you can relax and let somebody work you, and a good masseuse will, instead of asking you 400 questions, like the bad ones will be like, okay, where are your trouble areas? Where do you want me to do? Do you want your lower back? Do you want your upper shoulder? Do you want your scapula? The good ones just know where to go. They feel it on your body. So I recommend those, and everybody who does high level sports has a massage therapist, and they do massages before before competing, before working out. So I think that probably be out of those three, probably be my number one go-to, like a good massage therapist.
It's funny you mentioned that acupuncture guy, because when I was living down in Southern California, I found Zeal, like one of those mobile massage things.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through a bunch of different people, which was kind of interesting to have different people massage me at my home. And this one lady just kept talking my ear off the entire time about like spirituality. And she's like, I
Yeah.
feel like you have powers and you were scared into not using them or something, or like, don't be afraid of your power or something. And I was just like, dude, I
Yeah.
just want to massage.
I've had those experiences too. That's what I'm saying. That's how, they're just covering up for shitty skills, right? They're just trying to talk your ear off. And I mean, hey, some people, listen, the truth is that there's a lot of people that really just want that. A lot of people want to tell you that they want to work out and train with you, but they really just want to chat with you for an hour at the gym. Okay. And that's cool. That's fine. But just, be aware of what you're looking for. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true. I lost track of time here. Let's see. What else? Anything else you wanted to cover, Leo? Did we talk about oat milk enough?
If people don't get it, don't drink it. Okay, that's the
point. Any like, I might have asked you this on your show, but any like biohacking things that you're doing or anything extra? Are you taking methylene blue?
I started trying that out. It's kind of cool. It's interesting. I feel like I need to try it more. See, so that's the thing. That's where I'm like, I do, what I've been doing lately a lot of, it's just like popping an aspirin here and there, kind of frequently. And there's a lot of good stuff to aspirin. And there's a really cool book that I found. I think it's just called Aspirin. Might have it back there somewhere. I think it's just called Aspirin, but it kind of lays out the whole history of aspirin, how it was used in ancient Egypt and how it kind of got to us today. Really cool book. Maybe if you're Googling, you can find it, but yeah.
Is it The Remarkable Story of a Wonder Drug?
I think so. I can pull it out right behind me. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
It's Diarmuid. Oh shit, I don't know how to say his last name. Diarmuid Jeffries. Yeah, The Remarkable Story of a Wonder Drug. Really cool book. Kind of lays out from literally just like how do we even get to hear of aspirin? Who got it started, and then some of the patents and all that kind of stuff. It's an interesting book.
Yeah, I interviewed my friend Ben Belty on the show a while back, and he's like a Ancestral hunting foraging guy. And he's like influenced by Ray Peat. And he had an interesting point. He said that the willow tree used to be more ubiquitous, like something killed off most of them. We don't have as many for some reason. And the white willow tree has acetylsalicylic acid or the aspirin compound in it. And his theory was that animals used to eat that in more abundance than today. Therefore, our ingestion of essentially aspirin used to be higher from like an ancestral perspective. So we lost that in like our meat.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
And trees like like the birch tree that has the methyl salicylate, right? So that's the forerunner to synthetic aspirin. And like I said, people in Russia they drink birch tree juice, all kinds of stuff. Like I said, we use it in saunas. You make tea out of it. So yeah, I think a lot of these things are all around us all the time. We just don't know about it.
Yeah. I think I saw a study that aspirin's beneficial for convid. Not to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny you say that. I had somebody message me to tell me that that's what they were they got that thing that's going around recently, and they were using a lot of aspirin, and they felt great the whole time and kicked it pretty fast. So
from my research, there's almost nothing that doesn't knock it out. Like that's the funny part. Like vitamin E, vitamin K, beef liver, vitamins, whole food vitamin C. It's like everything you list helps it.
Yeah. Well, no, not enough, Matt. We got to wear masks.
Yeah. Well, I saw you were doing a magnesium experiment recently, right? You were supplementing that.
Yeah, so I got influenced with magnesium. I got influenced by Charles Poliquin. And I've tried all those magnesiums that he used to recommend because I mean, he also I don't think gets a lot of credit because I think he kind of is part. He kind of brought that whole kind of supplements thing to the kind of mainstream. He was definitely very big on them, and he made a lot of money doing those things. So I experimented with them. I don't know if it's that maybe I've never been sufficiently deficient, but besides having some weird dreams, I've never really noticed any super big changes in me. I have had a client that was experiencing like chest tightness, and he was kind of a little paranoid about it, thinking maybe something's wrong. And then the doctor actually prescribed him magnesium, and those kind of went away. So I do think that they're maybe out there, but again, it's like when you talk about with copper and stuff, it's like I think maybe you should first take a step back and think about like why aren't you maybe well, are you getting enough magnesium in your diet? Some people will say it's not possible to get it just from your diet, but are you? And then B, like, and if you are, maybe you're not absorbing it right. What's going on there? Like, why aren't you holding on to your magnesium well enough? So I think before just throwing super expensive $60 a bottle magnesium supplements at it, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. That's a good approach. Yeah. And there's a lot of nuances. Like, I discovered that carbohydrates allow us to recycle magnesium, like 40% of it roughly. So all the
Mm-hmm.
keto people have higher magnesium needs just because they're not eating sugar.
Yes.
And then also there's this balance between like potassium, sodium, and magnesium. Like those have a ratio together. And so if you
Mm-hmm.
just supplement magnesium and you're potassium and sodium deficient, that's a problem. Um,
Yes.
but
I think that's true,
yeah.
man. I think, I was training for a marathon at once, and I was running a lot, putting in like a lot of time, um, around a lot of work, road work on. And I was doing like a sort of a lower carb diet. And I remember I was getting terrible cramps, man, terrible cramps. And that's one of those signs of like magnesium deficiency, right? And before even doing any magnesium supplements, I just started eating more carbohydrates, and boom, right away, cramps went away. So I think there's something to that, what you're saying, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of transdermal. The other night I did like an Epsom salt bath, which I've been experimenting with sulfate instead of chloride. And in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks, I can't wait. I'm finally getting my sensory deprivation tank back because I had the last 4 months without it, and life's like completely different, not floating. I guess I could just do a regular meditation or whatever, but there's something about
Well, yeah.
floating and magnesium.
Now that is good stuff. I will agree with you on that. Like laying in the magnesium flakes in a float tank. I think that's cool stuff. I've done that out here. The crash one, the one that Joe Rogan got really popularized that one. Yeah, I think it's cool. I do think that's beneficial, and I do feel a sense of relaxation once you're done with that. It's good stuff, I think, too, man.
Yeah, there's a great book on it I read called The Book of Floating. And I don't think we know exactly how it works, but there's like 9 or 10 theories on how it's working because there's so many different factors. There's like no light, no sound, you're
Mm-hmm.
weightless, and there's the magnesium. So there's just like four variables that can influence. So, but it talks about the different like animal brains.
Mm-hmm.
I forget you have like the horse and the snake and the rabbit or something. It's like
Lizard
it talks
brain
about like
too.
how it
Mm-hmm.
affects your different animal brains. And
Hmm.
uh,
Now, how do
well,
you do it? Do you do it with? Do you put music on, or what's your way of doing? What's your favorite way of doing it? No, nothing.
I've probably done over 60 hours now of floating, and I've never used music with it. I do want to try it someday. I just don't want it to be like a waste because I feel like the lack of
Yeah.
sound is so important. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, when I am underslept, I'll do like a 20-minute new calm thing, which is like a neuroacoustic
Mm-hmm.
track of just supposedly there's like a algorithm built in where it like massages your brain essentially. Um, and that'll turn my brain back on if I get like 4 hours of sleep for whatever reason. But yeah, someday I'll try it. I've just tried beaming in like ultrasound, like ultrasonic
Mm-hmm.
frequencies into the
So you
water.
just go all black. You're just in there, nothing. You're just chilling, right? You're just enjoying it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and you experience panic attacks. I mean, I did for the first 2 or 3 weeks or month doing it, like little
Mm-hmm.
mini anxiety attacks,
Of course.
because your body, you just like no stimulations. Like your body wants to get out of there and do something,
Yeah,
anything to get away from your thoughts. So like have these
totally.
crazy twitches and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's such an important thing too, man. I mean, I got it into meditation when I was really young. Actually, I just was lucky. I had like a martial arts teacher that was, really into it. So I started meditating when I was maybe 14 or something, and I've done long hours. And yeah, this is before like all the apps and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's so important. It's so funny what you said is that how many people are afraid of just being alone for a minute, or for maybe longer than a minute. They need a phone, a TV, whatever noise. I think it's really important to be able to do that. Because and even myself, like you said, same thing with me. If I'm underslept, boy, like 15 minutes, 20 minutes of just sitting alone quietly, it feels like you slept an hour extra almost, right? It makes such a big difference. And just doing that, it kind of does give you a good reset. I do think it's good stuff. It doesn't have to be the whole, you don't have to do it Buddha style or whatever, right? You don't have to make it a spiritual thing. I think just being able to be alone, quiet by yourself, like that's an important experience.
Yeah. Yeah. My friend Josh Rubin, I've had on the show, calls it getting enough me time. And, with this whole, global situation, people talk a lot about the importance of, community and human interaction and stuff. And that is important. But I think it's not more important. It's equally as important as me time. I think they're both really critical. And I think people forget about having alone time. And a lot of people just can't handle it.
And they start
So,
panicking and they're uncomfortable with it. Yeah, I think it's an important thing. I do that with some clients. I'll have a workout or something, or train or whatever, work on them, and just, hey, 10 minutes, just lay here, don't talk, no phone, no nothing, no stimulus, just chill or just sit or whatever. I think it's really good, and oftentimes they feel super recharged just from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to that. Seriously.
yeah, because their brain's just going and it's like expecting
Yeah. Well, even
nonstop.
even when they're doing stuff, right? When they're working out, tick, 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 tick. Okay, well, I gotta get home. I gotta pay these bills. Oh, I gotta write that guy off. Oh, I gotta tell that guy to go fuck himself. Oh, okay, it's just like nonstop, right? Which is why it's so sad when I see people that go like drive to the gym, get on the treadmill, put their iPad in front of their face, and walk. It's sad and frightening, dude. Seriously. I'm not trying to be like I'm perfect. Hey, I watch Netflix and I do all that stuff. But I'm just saying you gotta give yourself a break for a minute. I mean, for an hour. Because once you're done with that gym, you're probably going home. You got to do stuff. You got to catch up on work. You got to do emails. It's just like give yourself a minute, man. Like just 1 hour, and stop walking on treadmills at the gym, for fuck's sake. Go run outside or walk outside. Jesus.
Yeah, even with air pollution, it's probably healthier, right? To walk outside because it's not recycled, air conditioned, like
Yeah.
positive ion filled air.
Exactly what you just said. We've talked about this with you, right? About grounding and all that stuff. If you're outside, you're grounding at least somewhat, right? You are, even if you have shoes on. You're already doing that bit. So just go outside, stop driving to the gym to walk on a treadmill or to do the little step mill thing. Oh Jesus, stop it. And then taking out your phone. It's like, yeah, people are, well, they're most of the time it's because they're chasing the dragon. They're chasing that, like, okay, I'm just gonna go to the gym every day for 2 hours. I'm gonna get lean, and then I'll be happy. And then it's like, oh wait, hold on, it's not that simple, and so forth, and it keeps going.
Yeah, since I moved, I'd say I've been pretty sedentary, besides just constantly walking around and doing stuff. But
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to using my chainsaw because I feel like just working an hour a day on the farm, I won't need weights or a gym because
For sure.
like that chainsaw is vibrating. I'm trying to stabilize it and just it's heavy. Uh,
Mhm.
I love those kind of exercises where you're getting stuff done.
Mhm.
I guess you kind of need like a farm to do that, but
Well, yeah, I mean, but hey, there's a reason they call it farm strength, right? Farmer strength. He's got, you meet those guys, right? They shake your hand, they fucking rip your arm out. You're like, what are you? You're like, well, what gym do you go to? It's like, gym. What gym you talking? It's like, I'm cutting wood every day and I'm taking care of the pigs. Yeah, I mean, yeah, man. Even just something like you said, as simple as walking, I think it's super powerful. If people just did I don't know, a 3-mile walk every day, which doesn't take you that long. Just walking 3 miles. I mean, what, 45 minutes? I mean, even you can go as slow as you want. But I think that just doing that bit is so powerful. A lot of people just lose weight or feel better or, lose the brain fog just from going outside and being outside for an hour. It's really powerful. You don't have to do any detailed, specific exercise. I think just walking is super powerful, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, and if you could find like an EMF free zone where you don't have cell service, that's even better, right? Just
Yeah.
don't get in an accident or bit by a rattlesnake or something.
Yeah, well, sadly, I'm in one, but the good thing is out here is that I do get out to the mountains out here, and I do go on hikes and stuff, and there's no cell service there. And, and like you said, there are rattlesnakes and stuff and wild cougars, and stuff like that. So, or mountain lions out here. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's the good thing. I do get away from it all as much as I can.
There's a bunch of mountain lions up here in North Idaho, and supposedly for every one you see, like 30 have seen you. And what's scary is they'll go right through your neck. They'll stop you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what you have to do? You just scream, "I'm vegan" when they do that, and they stop. But I'm vegan. I'm sorry, vegans.
Yeah. Did you have grizzlies where you grew up? Like where you?
Yeah. It's actually the most densely populated area. Kamchatka is with bears. All sorts of bears out there. Yeah, man.
Did you grow up seeing them a lot, like on hikes or?
Oh yeah, dude. You go out there, they're walking. I mean, yeah, you have to be super prepared. Like you really do. You can't just go out into the woods. I mean, I never had any, crazy experience, but my mom had an experience. I remember she told me one time they were out in the woods. They took a bus out there to do some sort of, adventure or, whatever, nature walks. And the bus left and they left them. It was like her and a friend. And they had to walk like 20 miles back from can you imagine? I mean, there's no phone, there's no nothing. And you're thinking at any moment a bear's going to come out and eat me, So yeah, those guys are dangerous too.
That's one of my worst fears. They're like the scuba diving boats. You always see those stories where they leave a diver that's still underwater, and then the diver comes up and there's no one. They're just stranded.
Sounds awful. Yeah, scuba is dangerous. Yeah, you were telling me last time you were you're gonna get recertified or something, right? Or you were gonna do it?
I'm gonna get back into. I think I just need the equipment, but yeah, I'm certified to advanced, and I don't even know if that matters. Maybe it does, but I would have to go to Seattle, and supposedly it's a lot of great whites and the water's really cold, but I'm still open for that.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, just don't get stranded, dude.
Yeah. With the bears though, I think bear spray is the first. People always think like bring a gun or something, but I think bear spray, even 2 cans if you want, because sometimes you could empty a can, but if you do, you're probably screwed if the bear doesn't, stop at that point. But yeah, whenever I go out into the woods, I usually have a gun and this bear spray. But I've watched so many I Shouldn't Be Alive episodes and bear attack, videos that it seems kind of just like a fight for your life thing. Like,
yeah. Well, you see that guy out in Alaska, right? That got attacked and then he fought it off with a spray, with the same thing, like I said, with a spray. And then he recorded himself. Do you know what I'm talking about? Maybe you've seen that video. And he's like, "Hey, just got attacked by a bear." And he has like his ears hanging off, Yeah. And Alaska, by the way, is right. Remember when Sarah Palin was saying, "I can see Russia from here." So that part of Alaska is right there where I was born, right next to it. That's why it's a very similar environment. Alaska and Kamchatka, that part of Russia, it's very similar. So yeah, there's bears on both sides, and yeah, be careful out there.
I mean, it adds a whole. I mean, talk about a meditation. It's like how, like you said. I mean, do you take someone that's like hooked on their iPhone and it's disconnected from their surroundings, and you put them up here in the woods in North Idaho? It's like you're forced to be alert. I mean, I guess you could just be zoned out as you're walking in the forest.
Good luck.
But yeah, I mean, if as soon as you hear a noise, a little growl or something, I mean, people usually perk right up.
Oh yeah, especially at night, eh? People freak out. Yeah, man. Oh man.
Yeah, but awesome, Leo. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. We talked about a lot of different things, and I'm happy to introduce you to my listeners. I think you're just a grounded, practical, hilarious guy as well. That's just genuinely wants to help people, and I just like that you're not extreme and you're lighthearted about it. And I think we need more of that in natural health communities. So appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks so much for having me on, brother. It was a great time. Always have a good time with you, and maybe we can repeat this on your show or my show again.
Sounds awesome, Leo. We'll stick around as I close out the show. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up today's show. Hope you liked it. I already have that book, Blue Mind, that Leo recommended. Really excited to dive into that. I've been fascinated with water for the last decade, and I liked his simple tips, especially with the squatting. I definitely feel a release in back tension when I just squat on the ground for a period of time every day. And it's so easy. If I'm on the phone, I just put it on speakerphone, I'll set it down and just pop a squat and just hold that position. And it feels really good on my back. I think the back and the spine is neglected. And I think there's so much information out there that for me, it was paralyzing. And it's made to be really complicated, where you need to hire like a biomechanics trainer and go through these e-courses. And I never did any of that because it seemed really complex versus just something as basic as squatting. I love how practical that is. You don't have to buy an e-course and watch a million videos or hire a trainer. You just have to implement that, and then you could keep adding things onto there. I've been really addicted to hanging on one of those bars that you hang in the doorway. And every time I walk by, I'll just stretch and do pull-ups. And it feels amazing, especially as someone that drove as a job for years and years and years, and that was on the computer since about the age of 10. So I feel like between squatting and hanging, those are two really easy, practical, instant ways to remove the tension from years of typing computer work and driving in cars. And I'm still learning about it. For the past few years, my focus has been largely vitamins, minerals, and enzymes and how they all work together. And I still have a lot to learn about stretching and maintaining the spine and all of the things that Leo is an expert on. So definitely check out Leo's podcast. It's called the Leo Wik Podcast. I'll put the link below. And his Instagram, which is hilarious, is I am Leo Wik. I'll put the link below for that. And go give his podcast a listen. There's a lot of people confused about the metabolism and utilizing carbohydrates and sugar. And I think he's just a great resource to reprogram your mind from all of the anti-sugar propaganda. And if you want to support this show, you can get a matt-blackburn.com. I have all my recommended products up there that I use myself. It's been a while since I've added a new product on there, but I did the other day, and it's called the Resonant Light Rife Machine, or the Pearl M. And it uses a 27.125 megahertz carrier wave to deliver frequencies to the body at the cellular level. And the treatment distance is actually 30 feet. So when I'm typing on the computer and I'm not recording and there could be high-pitched frequencies going off, I have that thing running about 6 feet from my computer chair. And I really feel the difference. There's a lot of different Royal Rife-based machines out there. And for those of you that aren't familiar, Royal Rife pioneered the use of resonance to affect pathogens, pathogenic infections in the human body. And so just like an opera singer shattering glass, if you match the frequency, because everything has a frequency, including parasites, viruses, fungi, mold, bacteria, whatever it is, everything has a specific signature, its frequency. And if you match that, you can actually shatter it and break it apart. And this is what Dr. Royal Raymond Rife found in his research. And others include Dr. James Baer, Dr. Anthony Holland, and Dr. James Oshman. This is suppressed technology. A lot of people have just never heard of it. I think it is the go-to for pathogenic infections. I think people make it overly complicated, taking 1 million supplements and really expensive liposomal $1,000 bundled supplements. And why not just buy a device that you could pretty much run forever, where you don't have to ever buy anything else, you don't have to restock supplements, and you have a killing machine. If you or a loved one or a friend gets an infection, you could actually take care of it with Rife frequency technology. I think that people fear what they are ignorant of, and we have so many tools available to us. Every tool, in fact, that we need to heal from truly anything. We don't have to wait for extraterrestrial medbed technology or whatever technology that people are waiting for, injecting nanobots in our body to repair the cells or whatever. Again, we're making it really, really, really complex when it could be as simple as resonance and shattering pathogens using plasma devices such as this one. So if you want to check that out on my website, it's definitely an investment, but I have one. I love it. I will use it for years and years and years and years to come. And I actually wiped out my cat's parasite infection. I hope you're not eating right now, but she had worms crawling out of her anus late last year, and there were little white wiggly worms. And I just brought this device down to her little cat tree that she slept on and just ran it. And I put it on repeat. So when I would drive into town, I would just run it nonstop. And I wiped out her worms within a few weeks. It really worked, and it worked quickly. My brand is called Mitolife, and it's based on mitochondrial health. And these products are the vehicle for my protocol called the CLF protocol: calcification, lipofuscin, and fibrosis, which are 3 things that accumulate over time, especially in elderly people. And it's the reason why we have so many chronic degeneration today, is because of these 3 accumulations in the body. So recently we just got Purely K back in stock, and a lot of vitamin K2 supplements contain vitamin D3, which I'm against. I don't think that is beneficial, and I actually think it causes harm by creating hypercalcemia, depleting your liver of retinol, depleting potassium, copper, many other things. So what I promote is to take vitamin K2 instead of D3. Instead of taking a K2 D3 combo, throw that in the trash and just switch to a pure K2 source. And the main 2 are called menaquinone 4 and menaquinone 7, or MK4 or MK7. And there's a big debate in the health community about which one's better. And some people say MK7 is just marketing or whatever. I'm an experiential researcher, which means that I used to take algae oil. I used to sell algae oil. I used to believe in it. And now I speak against it because I tried it and it messed me up. And with this MK4 versus MK7 thing, I definitely feel MK7 more. I've taken MK4 consistently for a long time, and then I switched over to Menaquinone 7, which has more mitochondrial benefits. And I noticed a huge difference in my energy level, my dental health, my brain function, exercise ability, everything improved just with switching over from MK4 to MK7. And Menaquinone 7 is really hard to get. It's in certain types of cheeses. It's not in all aged cheese. It's in specific ones and in natto or fermented soy. So I prefer to supplement it because it's easier. And people always ask me dosages. I'm not a doctor, so I can't prescribe doses. I always recommend just take the recommended serving size on the bottle. And people always ask me, well, what's a megadose? Well, it's relative. For me, a megadose is 6 or 8 or 10 Purely K capsules. And I would do that personally if I was experiencing dental problems or recovering from a vegan or a vegetarian diet. So Purely K is one of my favorite supplements. I think that, the Shilajit, the whole food vitamin C, the vitamin E, that's a good place to start. And then you could experiment with the other ones and see what benefits you get. Definitely go through the testimonials on the site because there are some wild ones. So thank you for listening. It's a new episode released every Friday. And I still have the Mitolife Academy going. Do a live Q&A once a month, which should be in the next few days here. And I put out 4 videos a month on YouTube about different protocols and tools that I find useful. So that's it. See you next week. Stay supercharged.